Something big just happened in the Linux world, and if you've been ignoring Linux thinking it's only for developers or tech nerds, this might be the moment that completely changes your perspective. For years, Windows and macOS have dominated the desktop experience, offering polished interfaces, deep ecosystem integration, and features that just work out of the box. Linux, on the other hand, has always been powerful, flexible, and free, but often criticized for being complicated, fragmented, or simply not user-friendly enough for the average person. But now, that gap is shrinking fast, and with this new feature, Linux is stepping into territory that could genuinely threaten both Windows and macOS in ways we haven't seen before. Let's start with the reality. Most people use operating systems for everyday tasks, like browsing the web, watching videos, editing documents, gaming, or maybe doing some creative work. Windows has always been the go-to for compatibility, especially for software and gaming, while macOS has been known for its smooth experience and ecosystem with iPhones and iPads. Linux, despite being incredibly powerful under the hood, often struggled with one key issue: user experience consistency and seamless integration. That's exactly where this new feature changes everything. Imagine an operating system that updates itself seamlessly in the background, without interrupting your work, that never breaks after an update, that feels stable no matter what you install, and that gives you complete control without sacrificing simplicity. That's what this new generation of Linux is bringing to the table through something known as an immutable system design, combined with atomic updates and containerized applications. And before you think this sounds too technical, let me simplify it in a way that actually makes sense. Traditionally, when you install software or update your system on Linux, changes are made directly to the core system files. This means if something goes wrong, your system can break, dependencies can conflict. Troubleshooting can become a nightmare, especially for beginners. Windows users know this. Pane 2 updates sometimes fail, drivers break, and suddenly your PC isn't working the way it used to. macOS handles this better, but even it isn't immune to bugs or update issues. Now here's where the game changes. In this new approach, the core system is locked, meaning it cannot be easily modified by apps or users. Instead of changing the system directly, updates are applied as a complete new version that replaces the old one in a single, atomic action. If the update fails, the system simply rolls back automatically, as if nothing happened. No broken system, no endless troubleshooting, no panic. Think about that for a second. A system that literally cannot break itself through updates. That alone is something Windows users have been begging for years. Even macOS doesn't fully achieve this level of reliability. But it doesn't stop there. Applications themselves are now being distributed in isolated containers, meaning each app runs in its own environment without interfering with the rest of the system. This eliminates dependency issues, one of the biggest headaches in traditional Linux systems. It also improves security because apps can't easily access sensitive parts of your system unless you allow it. If this sounds familiar, it's because it's similar to how smartphones work. On Android and iOS, apps are sandboxed, updates are seamless, and the system remains stable regardless of what apps you install. Linux is now bringing that same philosophy to the desktop, but with even more power and flexibility. And here's the part that should make Windows and macOS nervous. Linux is doing all of this while remaining completely free and open source. There's no licensing cost, no forced upgrades, no ads baked into the operating system, and no data collection practices that make users uncomfortable. In a world where privacy concerns are growing and subscription models are becoming the norm, this is a huge advantage. Now let's talk about performance, because this is where Linux has always had an edge. This new feature only makes it stronger, because the system is streamlined and doesn't carry decades of legacy baggage like Windows. It runs incredibly efficiently. Older hardware that struggles with modern versions of Windows can often run Linux smoothly, giving devices a second life instead of forcing users to upgrade. Combine that with the new system design, and you get an operating system that is not only fast, but also incredibly stable over time. No gradual slowdown, no clutter buildup, no registry issues, just consistent performance day after day. Gaming is another area where Linux has made massive progress, and this new feature indirectly strengthens its position even further. With technologies like Proton and compatibility layers, thousands of Windows games are now playable on Linux with little to no effort. Platforms like Steam are heavily investing in Linux, especially with devices like the Steam Deck proving that Linux can be a viable gaming platform. When you combine gaming support with a stable, unbreakable system design, you start to see a future where Linux isn't just an alternative, but a serious competitor. Now you might be wondering, if Linux is becoming this good, why hasn't everyone switched already? The answer lies in perception and ecosystem lock-in. People are used to Windows and macOS. They rely on specific software, workflows, and habits that have been built over years. Changing an operating system isn't just a technical decision, it's a psychological one. But that's exactly why this new feature matters so much. It removes many of the traditional barriers that kept people away from Linux. It makes the system more predictable, more reliable, and easier to use without sacrificing the power that advanced users love. We're also seeing major Linux distributions adopting this model, making it more mainstream. These aren't experimental projects anymore. They are becoming polished, ready for daily use systems that anyone can install and start using. And let's not ignore the developer angle. Developers love Linux because of its flexibility and control, but they also appreciate stability and reproducibility. With this new system design, developers can create consistent environments that work the same across different machines, reducing the "it works on my machine" problem that has plagued software development for years. For companies, this is huge. It means fewer support issues, more reliable deployments, and a better overall experience for both developers and users. Security is another massive advantage here. Because the core system is immutable and applications are isolated, it becomes much harder for malware to infect the system. Even if an app is compromised, its ability to cause damage is limited. This is something that both Windows and macOS have been trying to improve. But Linux is taking a fundamentally different approach that could prove more effective in the long run. Now let's zoom out and look at the bigger picture. Technology trends are moving towards simplicity, reliability, and security. Users don't want to think about their operating system. They just want it to work. They want updates to be invisible, performance to be consistent, and their data to be safe. For a long time, Linux was seen as the opposite of that powerful but complicated. But this new feature flips that narrative. It shows that Linux can be both powerful and simple, both flexible and stable, both secure and user-friendly. And that's where things get interesting. Because if Linux continues on this path, it could start attracting not just enthusiasts and developers, but everyday users who are tired of the limitations and frustrations of traditional operating systems. Windows is already facing criticism for forced updates, system bloat, and privacy concerns. macOS, while polished, is locked into Apple's ecosystem and hardware, limiting user choice. Linux, with this new approach, offers a third path, one that combines freedom, performance, and reliability in a way that neither Windows nor macOS fully delivers. Of course, it's not perfect yet. There are still challenges to overcome, especially in terms of software availability and user adoption. But the direction is clear, and the progress is undeniable. This isn't just another Linux update. It's a fundamental shift in how operating systems are designed and experienced. It's a step towards a future where your computer just works, where updates don't break things, where apps don't conflict, and where you have full control without complexity. And if Windows and macOS aren't paying attention, they should be. Because for the first time in a long time, Linux isn't just catching up. It's innovating in ways that could redefine what we expect from a desktop operating system. So whether you're a longtime Linux user, a curious beginner, or someone who has never considered Linux before, this is the moment to pay attention. Because the landscape is changing, and Linux is no longer the underdog. It's becoming a serious contender, and this feature might just be the turning point that changes everything.